There is a sound most people don't notice in an office. It's not the typing, not the phones. It's the silence that arrives right after something goes wrong. One day, you are sitting at your desk, the cursor blinks, normal day, nothing unusual. Then it appears, an email with subject line, meeting invite. No context, no explanation, just a 15-minute slot with HR. And suddenly, the room feels different. The same air feels heavier. You haven't been told anything yet, but your mind already knows something has ended. In the corporate world, nobody stays forever because the system is designed to keep moving even when you don't. And the ones who survive it mentally are never the ones who wait for the shock. They have already expected it. There is a strange illusion people build when they get comfortable in a job, a sense of permanence. But the corporate reality doesn't run on loyalty, it runs on requirement. If requirement changes, people change with it, and the people who handle it well are not the ones who got lucky. They are the ones who were mentally prepared for it, even on the normal days. Every single morning, before stepping into a workplace, there is a mindset that changes everything. Acceptance of uncertainty. Walk into the day with one thought sitting in the background, that today might be the day a meeting appears that changes your employment status. It shifts how you operate internally. You stop depending emotionally on stability that doesn't actually exist. You stop building mental comfort on something that can be affected by a single email. And something interesting happens when that mindset settles in. You don't panic when pressure increases. You don't collapse when something unexpected arrives, because your brain has already accepted the idea that change can happen without warning. This is not negativity, it is conditioning. The same way pilots train for engine failure even when everything is fine. In corporate life, emotional stability comes from preparedness. So if you are mentally ready to leave every day, then leaving becomes just another scenario, not a disaster. There is a dangerous habit people fall into when they feel secure in a job. They stop updating their identity outside the company. Their CV becomes outdated. Their skills list becomes vague. Their achievements remain trapped in old roles that no longer match current market expectations. A professional who stays safe in chaos is the one who is always ready for a new job. A CV is not a document you update when you are forced to. It is a living reflection of your current market value. Every new skill learned should already have a place in it. Every project completed should already be structured in a way that makes sense outside of your company. The moment someone is laid off or fired, the people who recover fastest are the ones who already know where to start next. Their CV is ready, their profile is aligned with the market, and their job search doesn't begin under pressure, and that difference changes everything. Some people only look at the job market when they are forced to. When the meeting has already happened, when time has already started moving too fast. But professionals who stay stable in unstable situations treat the market differently. They don't visit job portals out of panic, they visit them out of routine. Once a week, no matter how secure things feel, they open those listings not to apply but to observe. What skills are appearing again and again? What tools are becoming standard instead of optional? What job titles are evolving into something else entirely? You see whether your skill set is rising with demands pace or quietly falling behind it. And when you do this consistently, something powerful builds inside you. Confidence that comes from knowing you are not outdated. You start updating your skills before someone asks you to. You start adding relevant tools to your profile before a job description demands them. You start adjusting your direction while you still have stability, not after it disappears. And the ones who stay ready are not reacting to that moment, they are staying ahead of it. And then comes the moment nobody ever feels fully ready for. The meeting. Sometimes it's an email first, short, formal, no emotion, just time and date. Sometimes it's a sudden call. Sometimes it is a quiet message that says, "Please join HR for a discussion." But the feeling is always the same. The air becomes sharper, the day slows down, every notification feels louder than it should. This is the point where most people lose control of situations emotionally, even before anything is officially said. But the ones who handle it differently follow a sequence. First, calmness. No matter what is said at the beginning, there is no space for aggression, no interruptions, no emotional reaction that can be misinterpreted later. Because the way you behave in that room doesn't just affect the conversation, it affects your notice period, your references, your future communication with the company. Silence and control becomes your first protection layer. And then secondly, clarity about the reason. You listen carefully and then ask the most important question in the entire process. What is the reason for the decision? Sometimes it is funding cuts, sometimes restructuring, sometimes performance related. If it is performance related, the next step is not argument, it is understanding. What specifically is expected? What areas were considered lacking? Is there any actionable improvement path that was ever defined? You don't ask to change the decision, you ask to understand it precisely, because clarity is what you take forward. Then third is the notice period discussion. This is where tone matters more than words. You don't act angry, you don't act entitled, you don't act careless. You act like someone who not only understands the reality of transition but also managing it responsibly. You explain that you will need to start job searching in parallel, that balancing both things will be mentally and practically demanding. And therefore, you request the structure, clear responsibilities, manageable workload, space for the domain transfer, and simple tasks where required, not as a demand but as a request. Then the fourth, the severance discussion. This is where many people either stay silent or become aggressive. Instead, the approach stays grounded. You acknowledge the situation, you understand the company's position, and you ask for clarity on compensation support during the transition. Not in a loud voice, not in the pressure, but in a tone that reflects difficulty, not conflict. Because this moment is not about winning, it is about exiting without damage. Then the fifth is support request beyond the meeting. Before the conversation ends, there is one quiet but powerful request. You ask if HR or management can forward your CV within their network if relevant opportunities arise. It is not a demand, it is a professional courtesy request, and it changes how you are remembered. Because now you are not just an exit, you are a contact, a known profile, someone who left with awareness and not conflict. The remaining days or weeks in a company are not just the waiting time, they are reputation time. So the first rule is simple. Nothing changes in your behavior that signals emotional collapse. You continue working, you continue attending meetings, you continue responding professionally because you are protecting your long-term image. There is no need to become negative, no need to withdraw, no need to mentally exit before physically leaving. This is a phase where access still exists, people still respond to you, systems are still open, knowledge is still available. So instead of disconnecting, you quietly start using that access differently. You schedule short learning sessions with the colleagues who have skills you want to learn better. Sometimes they even help you prepare for your next interviews. So use that time carefully, not loudly or dramatically, because this phase is not about holding on to the job anymore. It is about extracting value before it ends. While everything feels emotionally loud, there is another layer that often gets ignored completely: your data. Everything you build over time, projects, reports, references, learning materials, notes, scripts, anything that represents your growth inside the company. Because once the last day arrives, access disappears, and what remains is only what you saved beforehand. So quietly, without disruption, you begin backing up everything relevant. You collect your material, you save anything that might be useful in future interviews or future roles, because what feels like routine work today becomes evidence of experience tomorrow. And alongside this, another critical action takes place. You start separating personal and professional digital appearances. Passwords are reviewed, personal profiles are removed. You leave no loose ends behind that can create problems later on. Some people wait until the last day to think about the documents, and by then it is already late. So the preparation begins earlier, quietly, without creating attention. Salary slips are collected, experience letters are requested, recommendation drafts are discussed, tax documents are organized, and termination paperwork is clarified. Anything that might be needed later is secured now, because once you leave, retrieving these documents becomes slower, more complicated, and sometimes even impossible. So this step is structural, because one day in a new interview room, someone will ask about your previous role, and what you saved now becomes your answer later. The final day arrives quietly. No dramatic announcement, no sudden shift, just a realization that this is the last time you are walking through this space as an employee. And the way you behave here stays longer in the memory than most conversations you ever had in the company. So if there is a farewell gathering, you attend it, not as someone trying to prove anything, but as someone closing a chapter properly. You meet people, you acknowledge them, you keep the tone simple, calm, and respectful. No emotional exaggeration, just a closure. You meet the key people, managers, HRs. You thank them for the opportunity, you acknowledge their experience, and you accept that circumstances change. Because in the corporate world, endings are not always personal, they are structural. And the way you communicate that understanding defines how you are remembered. You may even leave one final professional door open. If relevant opportunities arise in the future, you express openness to reconnect, because industries are smaller than they look and people remember how you left. A job does not define stability, a title does not guarantee permanence. What does remain is preparation, awareness, and the ability to stay steady when circumstances shift without warning. Being laid off or fired is not just an ending, It is a test of how prepared your mindset was before the moment arrived. And once you understand that, the fear around it changes completely. It stops being a surprise. It becomes a scenario you are already ready to handle. And that is where real control begins. Not in preventing change, but in never being destroyed by it. If you found this video helpful, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will see you on the next one. Thank you.